Okay,
Now
so
recording.
someone, really quick, just for the disclaimers, everybody who is in this chat, by staying in this chat, you are consenting to being recorded. If you do not consent to being recorded, you may leave and listen to the recording later. Continue, Your Majesty.
Thank you. So I don't know, remind me of where we're at, or if you guys had discussion while I was gone.
Yes. So, one of the things that was discussed, there was several things, but the one thing that I'm remembering, and if I forget something, someone please jump in. Feel free to. But if you were able to discuss the conversations that you had with people concerning Rangor's just you're not being offered this, and to just the rationale behind it, if you were willing to discuss that, that would be fantastic. If those were conversations you had in confidence that you don't feel comfortable sharing, we understand. But I feel like a lot of us would feel a lot better if we knew the rationale.
Well, it wasn't, so I was coming at it from a different place, I think, than Rangor was mentally, in that I didn't view it as an award already earned or something that he'd been offered that I was then rescinding. So for me, it was okay, convince me why I should give this award. And, well, I didn't really get a lot back in the plus column. So, you know, when I had my discussion with Rangor, you know, I kind of conveyed that. I don't know if I said it exactly those words. And he seemed to get pretty irritated and go straight to, okay, so Damus and Rourke are blackballing me. I have no shot. Thanks, good night. And that was the end of the conversation.
Yeah.
And for me, that's not what was happening. You know, I would love to see Rangor have an opportunity to go up against some high-end fighters and show that, you know, yes, he is on that level. I just don't, but, you know, when I kind of tried to point that out, he was very set on the idea that best in the South was what the award was, and ask anything more of him was breaking the rules and unfair. And so at that point, I kind of came to the conclusion that it was just a difference of opinion on what that award should be. You know, I want West March Warlord to be on par with a warlord in another kingdom. You know, I'm not saying he has to be the best. I'm not saying he has to beat Rourke or beat any XYZ. But I want evidence that he's on that level. And I haven't seen it yet. Not saying it's not true. I'm just saying I haven't seen it. So making the best call I can.
Right. I have a personal phone call. If someone else would like to continue leading the discussion, I'll be back in just a second.
Did that answer your guys' question?
So, to elaborate, the consensus of the current monarchy is that we have a strict reason. XYZ are the requirements for this award, and you were not given any information that said that those requirements were met.
I wouldn't quite put it like that. For one thing, the monarchy includes, you know, everybody in the monarchy. Azus, Raven, Rourke, myself, and Mike Zilla. And I can tell you that on the issue of what constitutes an award earned, Rourke and I disagree. But he's the GMR. He's not the monarch, so he doesn't get to make that call. He can rant about it, but, you know, I'm making that call. And I sort of got sidetracked. Can you repeat your question? I'm sorry. Can Can you remind me what the point of that question was before I got sidetracked?
I was just trying to summarize that the idea was that the award standard that was in mind was not met from the information you had.
Okay, so I hate to say it in quite those terms, but yes. For me, all awards outside of Hydras are discretionary. So, you know, for a 10th level Order of the Warrior, the rulebook says, do this, this, and this. However, it also says that the monarch has to look at the level of fighting at that tournament. So you can win a kingdom level tournament and have it not be counted because of the monarch's discretion.
Yep, I have legitimately had that happen to myself at a kingdom level tournament I took third on, and it wasn't, and it's just a thing, and it's understandable because there was only, despite being kingdom level, there was only 15 people there who were actually fighting. Understandable that
yeah,
is.
And so I can see how it'd be very frustrating to be beating, local tournaments regularly and feel like the bar is being moved because you think that is where the bar is. And I don't think that's where the bar is I think where we're coming against problems in this regard. So it's not so much that I'm saying he hasn't met the requirements, because the requirements are discretionary. The next monarch may feel differently, and that's just one of the pitfalls of our system, is that it is almost completely discretionary at the monarch's whim.
Atlantis, if I could ask, what are your qualifications for what would be a worthy kingdom level event for a fighting tournament?
Yeah, I do.
I don't think it should be asked what her opinion is, but mostly what we could codify into the Corpora so that it doesn't vary from monarchy to monarchy, perhaps.
Well, the problem is in the rules of play, it specifically says it is monarch's discretion. So there's nothing we can do at a kingdom level to change that. I can tell you what I think and what I want to see, but until we change the rule book with all the kingdoms, it is going to change monarchy to monarchy. And so what I would like to see for any masterhood level award is one of two things. Either acclaim. Their name is known, well known, not just in their region, outside, maybe even other kingdoms, and everybody says, oh yeah, that person totally should be a whatever at this point. And at that point, it matters to me less what their wins in a row or did they win Olympiad. If everybody thinks they should be, I'm going to find a way to make it so. And then the other one is recommendations from other masters. Mm-hmm. Do the other masters in the kingdom or outside the kingdom say, yeah, this person's my peer? That doesn't mean they have to be better than, but it means they have to be at a reasonable level, as according to people who have already been proclaimed at that level. Mm-hmm. And again, to me, it's less about wins and more about those recommendations and proving, I want West March to look good to the Golden Plains, to Burning Land, to VSR. Well, no, it's not VSR anymore. Blackspire.
Northern Lights, yeah.
Northern Lights, thank you. Yeah, so the idea that, best in a region is good enough is where we're having sticky points, I think. Because I want it to be more global than that.
And I'm so sorry. Continue. I apologize.
No, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I feel like in general that's a difference of opinion. Even among knights. I'm sure you've met my knight by now. Downfall. he and I are very much of the same mind in regards to, is a knight the best in Amtgard or the best in your kingdom? And I know that that's more of a knight, a belted discussion than a award discussion, but that is something that I've come up against quite a lot, and I think is part of Rourke's feelings on the subject is, oh well, you can't, tire out Monkey or Eggman or whoever, therefore you do not deserve thing. And it's like, okay, well, but are you kicking everyone in your kingdom's ass? Like, I think that there is a difference of opinion there, but I don't necessarily see how, or not how, but I don't necessarily see that they are bad. Like, you shouldn't have to be the very best in all of Amtgard in order to attain thing. But I do see where you're coming from in terms of your peers shouldn't look at you and be like, why the fuck did they give you that? Your seams are ripping every 2 seconds, my guy. That's not a Master Garber's level work. I get that. But there is that issue of gatekeeping, and especially considering, especially with gas right now, us coming to see you guys and vice versa just isn't reasonable or fair. But
sure,
my brain's, it's hot. I can't break it now.
Yeah, and
I feel like there was a point in there somewhere.
And I think I saw your point, and I think
Okay.
we mostly agree.
Mm-hmm.
But it is challenging, especially with fighting, where, yeah, if you're the best in your region, but you're not on par with the standard, and the only way to get on par with the standard is to travel, it's hard. Yeah.
For sure.
I kind of think about my own progress, where when I was coming up, I was undoubtedly the best Garber in California.
Mm-hmm.
All 30 of us. And yet when I went out and looked around, certainly I was not on that level yet. I needed to go and send my stuff to other kingdoms and up my game and get to the point where I was, even if I was on the low end, I was at least in that range.
Mm-hmm.
And so it is a challenge when you're in an isolated group. But I don't think that the answer is lowering the bar either.
This is something that I had mentioned a few times when you were away, about how this idea that you have to be better than all of the people, or at least go toe to toe with insert name here, is a very Brennan-esque idea and mentality that is,
go ahead,
it's just the way that he went about things, and the way that his influence has absolutely had an impact on the culture and how we understand these things. Like, I remember the day when he went on Amtgard Facebook and someone had posted all of the Crown and Flame Knights that existed throughout Amtgard, and was like, oh, there's too many. We need to drop your belts because some of you clearly aren't good enough if they're giving it out so much. And that's just, it's an asinine take, but it's a take that he had influence with, and I know that's definitely made its way into how sword related things are considered. But I saw him pushing it for other belts that he had no business speaking of. And those ideas have permeated throughout Amtgard's understanding of what a belt it is. or just higher level awards in general. And so that's a concern.
Yeah, I mean, I would say number one, Brennan's toxic as AF, and
Yep. No arguments.
you know, but I would say that culture did not originate with him.
That's fair.
It was there before he was there.
Yeah. I've only been here since 2012, so I don't claim to be an authority on all of that. But
Sure. I mean, I could see definitely he was a vocal proponent of that ideology, and therefore I could see it being attributed to him. And I think it can be a very toxic thing. Because, for example, in this particular circumstance, I was having people say, oh, well, we can't have Ranger and, did I say it right that time?
Rangor. So that last
Rangor.
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry.
Mr. Tree
We can't have Rangor and Rourke fight because they'll just throw safety to the wind and kill each other to prove that they're the best.
Yeah.
And that mentality is toxic, and we do not want that.
Yeah.
But, we do want it to be hey, if these two fight, are they, going about 50-50, maybe 60-40?
Mm-hmm.
Or are they, one of them is trouncing the other one 90% of the time?
Mm-hmm.
Because, yes, you're right. There is and should be a spectrum of skill.
Mm-hmm.
And masterhood does not mean the best anywhere ever. It just means mastery of that skill.
Yeah. Did you have something, Hagane?
I was about to say something, but I'm gonna let you finish first.
Just something that came to mind to just consider. Even if it is believed by some people that is in that top 2% of skill of insert level here, just because we're talking fighting, I'm going to use fighting. So, Agard, the first sword knight of Desert Winds, I saw him go toe to toe with Monkey, who is considered top 2%, and he was like, "Yeah, he's got it. He's amazing." Blah da 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 da. But then turn around and I'm talking to Deimos, and he's like, "Nah, he didn't have it." And it's like, okay, so like, how do you quantify that? How do you like think through that rationale if someone that's also a warlord or a sword knight is saying no versus the top 2%, or the other way around? What if Deimos was saying, yeah, he's the best ever, but Monkey says he's trash? Or Evil Randy from forever ago was saying, like, he has a lot of friends that are sword knights that are like, yeah, you're at warlord level, you can pick up any weapon set and just destroy people, but he never broke 7. So it's just weird and annoying, and people are just doing the best they can with what they got, and I appreciate and respect that. But this is a way more nuanced conversation than a lot of people like to tackle, I think.
I agree. Awards suck.
Yeah.
It ruined the game for me for years and years.
That makes me sad.
That mentality of, earning awards, being owed awards, putting your value in an arbitrary opinion of one person or even 10 people. So Agar was, I'm trying to remember his name. That was something great. Gabriel Crothar? Is that right?
Yeah.
Or something like that?
Yeah.
Yeah,
okay.
It was
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyways, side point, but just making sure I had the right name to the right person.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, everybody is going to have opinions, and they aren't always going to match. So you try to kind of get a consensus.
Mm-hmm.
If back to the current subject, if I had gone to Rourke and he said, oh, he's trash, and then I had gone to Deimos and he said, no, he's really worth looking at. And I had gone to, other people who I knew and talked to them, and they had said, oh, yeah, he's amazing. One bad opinion isn't enough to make a decision necessarily. Just like one good opinion is probably not enough to make a decision. I tried to sort of get an understanding of the general, and it would have been easier for me if I had known Rangor better myself. But, I've only met him the one time.
Right.
And so at that point, I pretty much was completely reliant on people who I knew and who knew him, which was a small pool.
Just really quick, I want to circle back around to something you said, and then I promise I will stop talking. You had said if there is consensus, right? And I totally agree that is something that is needing to be looked at. But whose opinion is valued is, I think, another thing that I'm pretty sure everyone south of SSD in this chat can appreciate. Like, theoretically, if everyone is saying this is the best garb I've ever seen in my goddamn life, and we keep trying to tell people, and oh, they're from the South, they don't know what they're talking about. But I know that when, like, that was something that I was pushing for before Lady Sibylla passed. That's something that I'd been pushing for years, trying to get people to look at her, bringing stuff that she made. The hidden stitches and by hand and all this crazy shit. She was phenomenal.
She won Olympiad.
She didn't win Olympiad, but she got best in show at Olympiad.
All right, my bad.
But that's the only time people were, like, even though I brought things besides that, no one really looked at her until she passed. And it shouldn't take somebody dying to appreciate what they have to offer. So, and I know that's not your fault. I'm not saying that this is on you, because you weren't in charge. But just, I feel like that's where we're being left. Like, no one is valuing our opinion, because we're living where we do. So even though there was the consensus of literally everyone this woman met, that they saw her stuff from every park, and even people like Yurik had come to visit before. He saw it and he said the same thing. It never went anywhere, and in part because I feel like people don't value our insight or expertise, or just think our skills are worth anything at all, and that's frustrating.
Extremely so. But I would like to bring up the thing that started this whole discourse as well again, Scorch, if that's okay.
I want to give Atlantis a chance to respond, and then you're next.
I just wanted to bring that up.
Absolutely.
I think it goes back to that out of sight, out of mind issue. That, it's not you're not valued. It's that, I know when I'm looking to give awards, it's really hard for me to say, okay, I'm going to give this high-level award to a person I have no context for. And so it does help to, see it in person. I asked if anybody could, show me anything that Sibylla had done, and I haven't yet seen anything. So I feel like I'm able to make that call because I have those skills, but I haven't been able to interact with her stuff yet.
I got a vest in the closet. I'll give you all the pictures you like.
And so, yeah. So it's getting the right eyes on the stuff, I think, is what, Yurik, wonderful, generous, kind man.
Not a garber.
I would not, not a garber. I would not take his advice on garbing or fighting. But, and so it's hard when you're in a place that doesn't have a lot of homegrown masters to give those recommendations.
But then that comes back to the problem where if our opinion isn't respected, we don't get those higher level awards, so we don't have homegrown masters that can vouch for them. It's like this annoying cyclical thing, you know?
Yeah,
And
I think
I
it's
know a
really
lot.
important, though, to note that it's not that your opinions don't matter, but it needs to be backed up with other things and build that base.
Mm-hmm.
And personally, I would love to see Southerners take over the monarchy here and there.
Mm-hmm.
You know, not every time, certainly, but you know, you guys do have that opportunity, and as far as I know, nobody has stepped up yet to do that.
Let's not pretend that the whole voting process is also contingent on the recognition of the name. And if we haven't had time to build that up because we've been thus far facing large roadblocks to making it up to kingdom level events, how are we supposed to, instantly just jump in?
Yeah, no one's gonna vote for Ares the Wall or Tiberius or Phelan, even though it's like, yeah, I'm more than confident you can do the job. It comes down to popularity contests, and if people don't know the names, then it doesn't matter.
It does. You're absolutely right.
Which is exactly what Work is saying right now. Is, well, you haven't done it, so we should take it away.
Well, I don't think you're saying we should take it away.
I'm sorry if I'm switching tack really fast, and I know Hagane had wanted to bring something up, but I just read it. I'm
more angry than you were 5 minutes ago.
I'm a lot angrier than I was 5 minutes ago. I'm at the point where I don't want that man in an office ever again.
Continue, Atlantis.
May I suggest you stop reading that thread, because it's not going to make any changes. It's Rourke being inflammatory isn't going to drive systemic changes. So he can offend you all he wants, but it's not going to change what we do going forward. So for your own peace of mind, you can disregard him in this instance. I will tell you, I have had some frustrations because sometimes Rourke likes to do the mansplaining thing. And I disagree on some of his points. And I don't see myself having the ability to convince him that he's wrong. So, you know, everybody's, yes, he has a large voice because he's in an office, but he's also only a guy who doesn't have any authority. So, you know, take what you want out of the conversation.
I'd also like to point out that Atlantis, the Queen of West March, is talking to us right now, not him. Hagane, you had something? Oh, unless you're not done. Well, I'm so sorry.
To go back to the point of, you know, it's a popularity contest, I 100% agree. I will say, again, this is one of my own, perspectives. I don't know if it's universal, but 7 years ago, I wouldn't have been able to be elected for anything. People hated me. And I left for a while, so the people who hated me either forgot, but then all the new people didn't know me. Mm-hmm. You know, I had a few voices of friendly voices, but, you know, campaigning, you get to know people. You are active online, and you get that name recognition. Right now in the South, I'd say there's probably a small handful of people who have that name recognition and could do it. Mm-hmm. But, you know, as you step up and do it, that grows, and you can make that change. And I think you can get where you want to be. It's just not there yet, if that makes sense.
Hagane, you had something.
Yes, I did.
The floor is yours.
So I believe that the initial intent of this meeting was not just on the topic of awards, but as well as discussing the future of the North-South divide and how quals and events and all that. I know that we discussed at the start of the at the start of our discussion here, and after that recess, we had agreed to think of any ideas that could be tried to rectify that. And I would like to bring up forthright of anyone who has thought up any ideas so far on how quals, events, and all that can be handled with this significant issue.
Is this you opening up the floor for ideas?
Yes.
Did you have any yourself that you wanted to present?
Yes, I did.
Okay, do that, and then we can move on to other people if they had any.
So my idea was that understanding that the feasibility of a north-south quals is primarily probably our best bet right now. Because of just how large the area that West March constitutes is, California, all of California, except Nevada, with Belial, right?
Valdare, I believe.
Valdare, sorry. So that's a pretty large area, and there's a pretty massive gap in between the two. So I believe that because of the way events are handled in that situation, it probably would be in our best interests to make a corpora amendment that would allow for events that are essential per corpora to happen in both the North and South without any difficulty. Yes, it does defeat the purpose of an inter-kingdom event or a kingdom event, because that's the problem that lies is that we're just so large, and that getting everyone together from both sides is quite difficult.
Not impossible.
Point on that. There is currently nothing, and in the past at least 7 years I've been part of On and Off for Monarchy, we have run SoCal Mid-Range, we've run SoCal Quals, we've run SoCal Raid things, and it currently is the best it has been in a long time when it comes to the North's involvement in that, especially with them being willing to move a lot of the most recent Kingdom level events down to Clockwork Spires has been a really nice push, because it has given us a kind of centralized, it's still 2 hours for a lot of the North, up to 4 hours for a lot of the North, but instead of being an 8-hour drive for us, it's only a 4-hour drive for us.
Indeed. That is something that I do greatly appreciate.
Nothing currently is stopping us from running our own events, and we have in the past ran our own events.
Yes, but I think that some more support from the Crown would be very much appreciated for Southern events. And that should go both ways, regardless of where the monarch lies. We're a floating crown kingdom, for God's sake.
So, when you think support from the crown, what does that look like to you? What is it that you're asking Atlantis for?
I mean, mainly just the recognition that this is indeed a kingdom-level event. And yes, it does go against the spirit of the idea of it being a kingdom-level event, because there's going to be there's 2 of them. But I do believe that this is it's the most feasible option, and it's the most fair option. It would be different if there wasn't such a massive divide in distance between all of us.
So, I want to specify which kingdom level events we're talking about. Are we talking like camping events, or are we specifically talking quals and mid-range, or just quals?
Quals, mid-range, and whatnot. Those are corpora listed events.
May I ask a question?
Yes.
No.
Raven and then Skullcada.
When you say it was a nice push and Clockwork Spires was a central location, that makes sense to me. If you are wanting a kingdom level event rather than north/south, would you want it to maybe be in a more central location so that all of the kingdom would meet in one place? Like, I know King City's
6 hours
used a lot, but King City or Clockwork Spires or SSD or somewhere that we hold it consistently in the middle of the state.
SSD / King City, because in my mind they're basically the same thing because it's the same driving distance, is about 7 hours from the most southern player. That's not feasible for a day event. You should not be in the car both ways longer than you are at any event. That is my opinion as far as eventing goes.
And then what about Clockwork Spires?
Clockwork Spires is about a 4-hour drive from where I am. I haven't done the math for that for our southernmost players.
So why should it have to fall in Clockworks? Why should it have to fall in Clockwork Spires to host it every time? I really like the idea, and I think a lot of people agree that having it in the north and then in the south and back in the north and back in the south so people can campaign to host at their parks was a really, really nice idea.
I do like that idea, yeah.
My idea would be to just have a definitive north one and a definitive south one.
I see what you're saying, Hagane, but that puts a huge burden on people of Clockwork to 6 times every year have to host this and
It would not be it would not be just be Clockwork alone. It would just be like
Clockwork is the only one that is actually dead center between the north and south divide. So it would have to fall on them.
Right, so what I hear you saying is alternating north, south, or have concurrent north
concurrent
and
is
south.
my concurrent, Raven.
Okay, thank you.
I understand the tremendous financial cost that would have.
Thank you. I'll go back on mute now. Thanks.
There is something that I've noticed we've gone very hung up on, is the importance of it being considered a kingdom level event. And for most things, that doesn't really matter all that much.
Yeah, we kind of don't really care.
Something that's in name only. If we host a call like the last group calls we had, I was told that the North calls, they had 52 entries. We had 69 for our ANS. Our calls was a big calls, and I don't feel like anyone there felt like it not being considered. Maybe I'm wrong. I am only one person, but I don't see how it being called a kingdom level event versus not makes literally any difference other than one award, which is warriors that very specifically say it has to be at this level land or higher with attendance adequate to that land's supposed status.
Semantics things as well. Tennis.
Yeah.
Why are we, as a group, hung up on this idea that we have to have kingdom level event?
Because may I speak for a sec?
Go ahead.
Yeah, so tennis, I do believe that the reason why that we say this is because we're trying to prove as well. This all goes back to the thing. This would if it was recognized as a kingdom level event, it would prove more and show more that the South's validity is there.
But we haven't had a kingdom level qual.
Yeah, we have hosted a couple.
I know, yes, but even still, it's also just a matter of convenience too, because of the drive distance, as Scorch mentioned as well.
I think I'm going to restate what you said and how I perceived it. You want it to be slapped with the title of Kingdom the Thing, so that people that are unfamiliar with us can see that we are capable of running a good, solid, fair kingdom level The Thing. Is that what you're getting at?
Yes, that is
Okay.
correct, Scorch.
Understood. Thank you for your clarification.
Mm-hmm.
I also think that labeling it as a kingdom level event would also help with getting more people to actually come to said events.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, good one.
I kind of go back to my idea of having the terminology of kingdom level quals switch back and forth. So once a year the South gets it, once a year the North gets it. That means you are on an equal footing with the North.
Now,
let her finish.
No, I didn't mean to speak. Sorry.
Okay.
Okay. Well, I was going to say, if you had a question of clarity, I'm happy to answer that. You know, and that way we are both on equal footing. And, you know, if you don't have kingdom quals that year, then you can have a regional qual, or that season, you can have regional quals that season. So every 6 months, everyone has drivable, reasonable access to quals for kingdom level office. And once a year, they have that kingdom event that draws more people, that gives the bragging rights and the legitimacy that you guys are saying you want to have. And I guess it sort of does take away some of that from the North, because the default is right now, you're right, the North is the kingdom seat. And so I think having that switch would kind of help. It wouldn't necessarily bring us all together, but it would put us on a more even footing.
And it would get them seeing us and us seeing them and so on. I'm not opposed to that idea.
Neither.
I think it's solid. But the thing that I was kind of irking about specifically with what Rourke was saying was it felt like just you guys are forbidden from getting together and doing the thing. So that's kind of how he came off to me, and I think that's how he came off to everyone else. Like, you guys are not allowed to put on your own coronation, mid-reign, quals, whatever, because you're gonna steal warriors that don't belong to you. Is how it came off.
I'm not saying that's an unreasonable. I don't think that's what Rourke intended, but I could see how you would take it that way for sure. I think making it so that we switch off and only have one kingdom level event will answer all of Rourke's concerns in that regard. You know, he's complaining about the 2 kingdom level events at the same time, because then they're no longer kingdom, they're regional.
As a kingdom, we're also a lot longer distance-wise than pretty much everyone but Texas and Alaska.
Yeah.
So,
and Texas has 4 kingdoms.
Yeah.
Golden Vale is about 10 hours edge to edge.
That's wild.
It's even crazier with Rivermore. They're even bigger.
You know, so it can be done. I think the key is the power dynamic. And yeah, you guys right now feel like you are less respected and less listened to, and that needs to change. I think we can make it work as long as we recognize we're all equal partners in this and not overlords and slaves.
I appreciate that. I did have, while we were kind of on the subject, I did have a question about, so say we put this amendment forward, it passes, we're doing the thing. How many, say we were hosting that kingdom Qualls, Midrain, and Westmarch had the regional one this year. How many northern individuals would have to attend for it to be considered something that someone could earn high-level warriors for? Because just for the sake of argument, Deimos doesn't show and Rourke doesn't show, but people are wanting to put in for those higher-level warriors.
It's rough. It's not a number. It is a level of competition. Amp in California has been around for 28 years. 28 years.
Mm-hmm.
And, Deimos was our first homegrown warlord. It took that long for us to get to a level where we were, on par with the rest of the world.
Mm-hmm.
So ideally, you would have those top end fighters coming north and those top end fighters going south and, raising the bar for everyone everywhere. So it's more about the quality than the quantity, I would say.
But you're saying theoretically, if Rourke just decides to stonewall the event and Deimos just, for whatever reason, can't make it, we just can't meet those levels?
No.
Okay.
No,
I'm saying,
I would throw... I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Let it finish and then you can go ahead.
Yeah, it's not necessarily reasonable to say you have to beat these two fighters to be on that level.
Mm-hmm.
However, if, your 7, 8s, and 9s and 10s are coming up here and on par with our 7, 8s, 9s, and 10s, then we know that there's, a parity, sorry. If you have a 9 or a 10 and he is consistently beating our 8s and 9s, then he's that next level. It doesn't necessarily mean he has to beat our 10s, but we do have to increase the flow and make it a more homogeneous pool that we're pulling from. It is going to be really, really hard for the South to get a warlord if the South never travels north and the North never travels south. Rourke, I think he's a bit of an oddity, but he traveled a lot to a lot of other kingdoms, and he got that sort of recognition outside of Westmarch. And I think anybody who wants to be at that high level has to be willing to do a certain amount of traveling.
Sure.
Rourke is kind of in the middle, as is Deimos for that matter. So I would say, someone who's in Crimsonwood, if they're consistently the best in Crimsonwood, but they never make it down towards the middle or the south to have that larger comparison pool, they're never going to progress past that.
Mm-hmm. But just for clarity, the kingdom level, mid-range, crown, qualls, whichever, is labeled like kingdom level event slapped on it. That would be a valid tournament to progress in that, theoretically, if there's enough skill, kill streaks, etc.
And once again, that lies to where the monarch's discretion part happens.
Yes, exactly. I mean, yes. In the rule book, it says these are the events that might count if they have enough skill level, or anything the monarch says counts. It really comes down to the monarch.
Roger.
So I can tell you all day, every day what I personally want to see, but in 4 months it could totally change. You know,
Right.
one of you guys could step up and run for monarch, and then it's up to you.
Mhm.
And Rourke might gripe because he has a very specific idea of what it is, but that doesn't matter because he's not the monarch.
Gotcha. Skokeda, did you have something? I heard somebody said something. I don't think I saw the green blip to indicate who though.
That was me. I was actually going to say in relation to your example of, if all the high level ones, including Rourke, were to say boycott the event because, weird power trip, whatever. I would say that then he gets to eat his own words. I guess
Mhm.
competition's not for them.
Mhm.
I mean, I think knowing what little I do of how Rourke's mind works, I think it's far more likely he's going to show up to every single event and try to do a shutout than that he'll boycott it to make it not good enough. But even if,
Yeah, that
you
sounds like
know,
him.
tomorrow Deimos and Rourke were struck by lightning and no longer able to attend any events,
Mhm.
we still have other 7, 8s, 9s, and 10s who can push themselves and each other and raise that bar to the point where somebody will get there. I just can't say if anybody is or not, you know?
It's based on discretion. I believe that you either fulfill the condition as listed in standardization, or, well, yeah, you have to fulfill the conditions, but also,
There's two ways to fill those conditions, or several.
yeah, but there's the rules as written one,
Mhm.
and then there's the one that comes under discretion. That's why I assume you consult other warlords and sword knights and all that, and other high level fighters to see if that was
Would it be?
justifiable.
Wait,
Go ahead.
can you guys hear me?
Yeah,
You are
go on, Dark.
perceived.
Yeah.
Continue.
Would it be possible to codify that, like, hey, we would like a this number of 9, 8, and 10 level warriors or whatever the award is to be present during the fight? Because you keep saying it's up to discretion of each leader, but how do we know what they want unless they tell us right when they're running or at least announce it publicly?
Atlantis a little earlier mentioned having a 7 and up tournament. So if you have your 7th warlord, you may enter this tournament.
That's a very good idea.
But
Yeah,
that was
my
mentioned
plan.
for being at Foo. Would that be something we'd want to include in coronations or mid-range or quals and stuff like that?
Absolutely.
Probably not qual.
That is,
I will
As-
let the queen
Maybe not
answer the
qual.
question.
yeah, that is absolutely up to the discretion of the monarch or anyone who's running the event. I used to see them a lot more, and I haven't seen them in years, but I thought they were a great idea. The hope is I can get enough 7 and ups to make it a reasonable tournament for anybody who wants to show their stuff. And then I think it's on Sunday, we were hoping to have a 6 and under tournament as well. You know, give people who aren't as skilled a chance to shine a little bit more and not get trounced by those higher ups.
But to at least get them up to 5.
We absolutely can have those events at any large event. That's totally cool. And it would certainly be a good argument if you are running an event in the South and you have, 5 or 6 or whatever 7 and ups, and you run those, and then you can come to the Kingdom Monarchy and say, here's the competition, here's what we think. Now, it's still 100% up to the monarch, but I think that's a really good argument you can make and support of what you want to see happen.
Basically, we're setting it up so that we can show receipts later.
For sure. That's a good idea.
Did anybody else have something?
I would add that, you know, if you're in a land that doesn't have those high orders yet, it would be perfectly reasonable to say, you know, okay, so we only have 6 levels of the warrior at this tournament.
Mm-hmm.
It would be reasonable then, the winner of that tournament might be ready for a 7th.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're at a, and in fact, I think that might be a really good way to look at it in the future, is if you're at a tournament, you can expect to maybe earn 1 above the highest other person there. But if you're, you know, trouncing tournament after tournament after tournament, and the highest level is 6, you know, maybe that's where you're at. Maybe that's a 6 or a 7.
Mm-hmm.
My only problem with that is it now puts an element of luck instead of skill into the game of like, okay, cool, I'm going to this event, and the rules say that there has to be 5 at least above 7s there for me to be able to get my 7. Oh, only 4 showed up. I have 0 chance of getting an award for this event now.
Well, no, I'm not saying, because it's not the rules. It's me saying, here's another way you can look at it and have a well-supported argument when you want to make that award recommendation for that higher level Order of the Warrior. You can say, here's this tourney we had. Here's the levels that were in this tourney. We think it deserves, you know, that. It also prevents people from saying, you know, I trounced this tournament. Yeah, the highest level was a 5th, but I trounced it, and I trounced it 3 times, so I should be a warlord now. It gives people a way to think of it. It's not a rule, and it's never going to be a rule, but it does give people a chance to give reasons and understand how they can climb that ladder.
To also clarify, say that there are those 4 level 7s at that. If you get your streaks in, it kind of doesn't matter how many bodies there are, because that means that you're going through that line and killing those people how many times. You know, if it's, my brain is sitting on a Iron Man style tourney, but that's basically what we've been running for years down here.
Sure.
Did anybody have anything else? Or could we move on to, I had another thing that I wanted to bring up.
I don't think I have anything else useful to bring to this. So
okay. Once.
All right. So next question.
All right. So obviously you can tell just by looking around for a hot second, we are going with the ultimate goal of being our own kingdom, and the first step to that, making our own principality. I had a conversation with Porkins on how he suggested we proceed. I'm gonna talk to the boss bitch in charge rather than going off of what he said.
I mean, yeah, good call.
Yeah.
Also, I was one of
you were the first princess of Westmarch, yeah, and you were.
Yeah.
I don't want to. No, that would be a rude thing. Not rude, but not humble, not kind thing to say. I've been pushing the way that you were pushing in the past, is what I feel. So I don't want to say I'm like the southern version of you, because that's like presumptuous. But
I will warn you
my
that
4th.
I will warn you that method of getting things done, it did get us there. It also made me probably the most hated Amp-Garter in California for quite some time.
Fair enough. But the way that I've been trying to do things, and if people don't feel like I've been doing it that way, please tell me and I will fix myself. But trying to be open and communicative, and trying to, you don't have to be friends, you just have to be civil and try and meet people where they're at and moving forward, because we all are working towards a common goal and need to recognize that we're in this together to get to where we're going. So in your opinion, what, like, there's not a whole lot of clarity in the Corpora surrounding principalities because it was not written with the intention of there ever needing to be one. So what do we do?
Well, we were, when Westmarch formed, we were kind of one of the very first principalities, and so we were kind of making it up as we went along.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if you don't want to start stepping into Kingdom office, you need to be working together enough, have enough people attending within your borders, decide who you are, like which parks are going to be part of this principality.
Mm-hmm.
And I would say kind of just an unofficial agreement of, here's the rules we want to run under, here's who's going to be a part of it, and put together a bid package that you can bring to Westmarch Pulsing.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, show that you have enough leaders. That was where Westmarch really struggled in the beginning, is having enough leaders to run the principality and the local lands.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if you have 5 leaders per land, it's not enough. You know, you need probably 10 or 12 at least, because you can't have the same person doing the same job for years on end. So you need to be able to have people step back and take a break. You need to have extras so that you can send to the kingdom level. You know, so as long as you guys are a group of smaller lands that don't have that leadership base, it's going to be really, really hard.
Mm-hmm.
But, you know, start showing that your lands can fill all their monarchy positions, can follow the rules. And I'll tell you right now, a lot of lands in the north aren't doing it either right now.
Yeah.
It's much harder to get principality than it is to maintain kingdom, though. So as long as you have that expectation in mind of you have to jump through these hoops, it's totally doable. But if you give yourselves the out of, well, they're not doing it, then you probably won't ever get to that bar of starting.
Mm-hmm.
So foster your leaders, decide who you want to be, agree that you're going to do it, and, you know, I'm trying to remember exactly what our Corpora says. I think you could run our Corpora. I don't think, when we started out, we had to write our own Corpora because there wasn't a principality Corpora available.
Mm-hmm. From what I remember, so I've been doing a lot of research since like my 4th day at Amtgard ever. That was like a decade ago. From what I remember from when I looked over, you guys wrote your own Corpora as if you were writing a kingdom Corpora, and then Dragonspine's like, no, we don't like it. Do it again. And you guys had like, well, having a kingdom champion doesn't make any sense, so we're going to get rid of this, and we're going to write this in as if we're a kingdom, and da-da-da, and they just got grumpy, so you had to redo it. So you basically took the Dragonspine Corpora, slapped Westmarch's name on it, changed everything that said kingdom to principality, submitted it, and they're like, yes, excellent. Perfect.
Not quite.
Okay.
We did start with theirs as kind of a template because that's what we were familiar with.
Mm-hmm.
And then we made a bunch of changes, and we did take out the kingdom champion. But yeah, we did write it as if it was a new kingdom.
Mm-hmm.
And the only thing they really did stick on was that champion. So we added the champion back in. And then that was our principality Corpora, and they said, yep, okay, you're a principality, congratulations.
Mm-hmm. Did you
and
have
then,
to meet any numbers, or like, would you require us to meet any certain numbers or anything in order to get to that point?
I'm trying to remember. I want to say they were asking us to aim for kingdom level numbers at that time.
So rough.
Yeah, it was. I think it was 75 unique sign-ins per month from all the lands combined.
Was that everyone has to meet at a park to do it, or was that just just aggregate, take all your numbers?
Every park add up. Yeah.
Understood.
Every park add up, and then our events helped a lot. The
Right.
yearly events, showing that we had 150 people showing up once a year was a huge boon to us.
Okay.
Um,
Everyone come to Once Upon a Time
and
in
then
February.
when we were trying for Kingdom, they then wrote, and I was not involved in that part, but they then rewrote the Kapora again. So we have a different Kapora as a kingdom than we did as a principality.
Right.
And we also had to all meet at one park to become a kingdom. Like, they had to get the kingdom numbers at one park.
Yeah, I remember
That was
that. The
after
Kingdom
I
push.
left though, so.
Yeah, they required everybody to meet at one park for West March Days, I think is what they called them, and it was once a month. Everyone had to
That's
physically
right.
show
Yeah.
up. Is that something that you're going to
I think
require of
I
us?
started that.
Nope.
I think we started that as to get principality. And again, I wasn't hugely involved in the push for kingdom.
Mm-hmm.
But that sounds reasonable, yeah.
It wasn't the kingdom that required us to do that to become a kingdom. It was the Circle of Monarchs.
Right, but
Sure.
that's cart before the horse. We're looking
Sure.
yeah, okay.
No,
But
I'm
I
just
hear
saying,
you.
before that, they didn't require us to all meet at one park to get numbers.
Okay.
But
So,
they did want us to show once a month that we had a large event. May not have been up to 75, but we did have that's why Dark Shore, and we had Princess War at the time. And yeah, the West March Days, I forget the exact number they wanted, but yeah, there was that. I don't think the way it's evolved in the Floating Crown that necessarily West March would have those same expectations. If that makes sense.
yeah. So, theoretically, if we were to present a package to you tomorrow, we're not going to, but if we were, what would you require in that package for us to get a rubber stamp? You're a principality now.
Well, you present it to me, and I would then send it to the All Thing. So it's not the Monarch's choice in this case.
Understood.
But what I'd want to see to put it on the All Thing would probably be proof that you're running those regional quals and you're having your officers qualled. And in a perfect world, I'd love to see you guys showing you can do some kingdom offices. But barring that you have the number of leaders would be the biggest thing, and the number of players. If you guys are fielding, 70 people across however many parks you have each week, that's huge.
Mm-hmm. Even if we don't necessarily all meet in person once a month.
Right.
Okay.
So if you have 4 parks that get 15 people each, that's in my mind pretty good. Mm-hmm. I haven't given a whole lot of thought to it and detail. I probably want to talk to other monarchy members and other leaders and, come up with a more concrete plan.
Mm-hmm.
Because I don't want it to be all on my back. I'd rather build a consensus and support you guys and do it right.
I totally agree. I don't want all that on your back either. That's just rude. Okay. Did anybody else have a question as far as this subject is concerned?
I know we're talking about forming a principality, but when we first talked about it, Sir Gata was not for it. So I feel like before we even move forward to follow this, Scoot will have to go back to Sir Gata and see if their opinion has changed or not.
If you said words, buddy, we didn't hear you.
Wait, can you still not hear me?
No, I can hear you.
We heard you.
I can hear you.
Yeah, we heard you.
Oh.
I just thought Scoot was talking and it wasn't coming in.
Oh, no.
No, I was muted.
Roger.
I will.
Really, our
Go ahead.
Shargiata's position was that we weren't anywhere close to ready for it. I mean, I had that same discussion with my officers that Ilanthus just discussed. I mean, we need way more capable people to be officers. I mean, in Shargiata, we can do our own officers, but extending that much more gets dicey because we do get a lot of military members. So the instant we get one trained up, they're being PCS'd out to somewhere else.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a problem that we've lived with for all 16 years, but it is an issue that we would have to overcome to even start to push for principality.
So your concern is, for Scoot and SG just in general, your concern is less willingness and more we need to make sure that we as a park individually are maintained while supporting this thing.
I
Is
do
that
agree.
Well, I mean, all of our parks, because if
Oh no, I agree, but like for your specific concern.
yeah, I mean,
Okay.
if we're not pushing for that, if we do try to push for principality before we have that stable leadership that we can push for principality all together, then we're going to end up burning out people. They're going to drop out of leadership. I mean, it's really almost exactly what happened to Atlantis. Sorry, Atlantis.
No, I completely agree. That's why when people are getting all excited for the thing, I'm like, what's your recruitment like? How is your core doing? That's been my big thing that I keep pushing people to go back to. It's like, how do I make this thing happen? Recruit from your park.
And so really, I think that is the real thing. I mean, we need to recruit for our individual parks, and we need to go strong, and we need to grow like each other. I mean, like, be friends, enjoy going to other people's parks, because otherwise it's not going to work. It
agree.
just won't.
Absolutely, I agree.
The single hardest hurdle we had when we were forming our principality was getting people who didn't like each other to agree to work together and getting enough people to agree that this was a good idea. I will say, however, that I've seen a lot of people once we had that principality and that kingdom, people who didn't ever necessarily step up suddenly had a place and they did fill that void. So while I want you guys to have that strong leadership before you start, I also recognize that sometimes putting the cart before the horse might help a little bit. It gives people a chance to grow into that role if there's that vacuum made available.
That makes sense.
Well, it's certainly never stop growing. I mean, even after your kingdom, you still keep growing, because otherwise you just become stagnant, and you have 10
Burning
people that
landfills.
have master everything, and everybody else is like, well, why should I even care?
I want to be cognizant of Atlantis' time, but does anybody else have anything that they want to bring up to her specifically? Questions, comments, bitches, gripes?
I think it's safe to say I'm plenty griped out.
Roger.
I'm good. I just want.
That sounds like a victory to me.
Yeah.
I very much just want to hear facts and just hear the things before making a decision.
A decision?
Well, not like my own personal decision.
I'm fucking with you, chicken. You're good. You're fun, buddy.
Or you wanted to make an informed opinion.
Yeah, sorry. Well, I meant more like a decision.
Yeah.
Thoughts, but opinion, yes. And so far, I like the way it turned out. We got to discuss things rather than just letting anger and just judging and slandering each other. It just went nice and calmly in a nice little discussion.
Yeah. If SoCal people want to continue to stay, and then we can talk things out about whatever we want to talk about, that's all good. If no one else has any questions for Atlantis or Raven, who's just been chilling, we should probably let them leave.
Thank you.
I will tell you, I have 15 more minutes before my daughter's out of her meeting, so that's fine with me.
Thank you so
I
much
would love.
for popping in. I
Go ahead.
appreciate it. That's it.
Just gratitude.
I didn't have
Thank you.
anything else. I just wanted to make sure that I heard everyone's opinions and concerns, and going forward wasn't just watching the dumpster fire emotional discourse. And actually, I mean, that was kind of one of my things when I was Monarch that was really cool, was because we weren't meeting in person. I really got to know a lot of you remotely through Discord and that, and it's been really nice to hear what you've had to say, and I'm going to carry that forward. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
All
Yeah,
right.
I definitely appreciate the digital options. Don't have to have that discussion tonight, but I would love to hear your guys' takes on some corpora changes. We've had a few things that I thought were gonna pass that narrowly missed, and so if we can get more people on the same page and get those popular changes ironed out in a way that everybody likes, that would be hugely helpful to me.
I've taken notes.
You guys want to have those conversations.
I have no life.
If I can
lots
say
of
something on that
opinions,
point,
so.
At least for the Chronicles thing, I feel like it was kind of too many changes all at once. I feel like if you'd broken that up, people could have found the individual things they liked and voted on those, and then we could work on the ones that didn't pass from there. So I mean, if you want to do another one of those, that's what I would go for. As far as which ones I would vote for or not, I'd have to go look again because I dropped it on my mind a while ago.
Yeah, for the quals all thing item specifically, the big complaint I heard from people was that they didn't like how it was formatted, to which I say, you can change the formatting and keep the words, it's fine, but whatever. But
okay.
it did seem like a popular item. It was just the way that it was laid out was very confusing for people.
It was kind of monolithic.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I did that because I felt like if you change a bit here and a bit there, you end up with something that's not cohesive, and I was trying really hard to make it a working system all at once.
Right.
But I think what I might do in the future is make it a discussion, probably on Facebook, because that's where I'm most comfortable, and just leave it up for, tweaking, and people can change their votes, and when we get to enough votes that it looks like it would pass, try again. But I want to work on it and tweak it, and not just slam our heads against a brick wall, same thing over and over.
For sure. And I'm more than willing to sit and talk through these things with whomever. If
there's one other thing I would like to propose as an all-thing amendment. It is currently impossible for a member to put something on the all-thing corpora-wise. There's no codified way for that to happen. The only way for it to happen is for the monarch to put it on. And that means if the populace doesn't like something, the only way to get a corpora change is to impeach the monarch and put in a new monarch.
Or wait till the next reign and have someone who is on board with the change step up.
Sure. I would like
I think what he's getting at is
yeah.
So just anything that we submit. Anything that a person submits can go on, is I think his point.
The problem you have there is you can get a lot of people with their personal, pet peeves, and you can get 50 things. I think what I was going to try to do with the Qualls idea, where I put up on Facebook and we, talk about it and get support, I would be in favor of some sort of system like that, where something that gets X number of, maybe 20% of all things or voting eligible signatures gets put on the all thing. That way it's not just every little thing, but it is a way to get something on even if the monarch's not in support of it. Does that sound reasonable to you?
Yeah, that's exactly what
You cut out, but I think
like.
you were
It
saying
could
that's
be
exactly
whatever
what you were
person.
thinking. Yeah.
Yes, that's exactly what I'm thinking.
Awesome.
Okay. Yeah, I think that's a reasonable thing we can work on adding in.
Dope. Trying to think of something else. I feel like I had something.
Pressure.
No. Dun 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 dun. But yeah, I don't like. I can't think of anything specifically. If somebody else has something, go for it. If not, I'm leaning towards releasing you and Raven to.
Hope to see
Alrighty.
everyone at Feast of Odin. I'm going to end the recording now in
Awesome.
3, 2, 1.